Hello, beautiful people. Happy Easter to you. I am super excited to be here today. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is the Whole Bits channel, and today we're gonna be cooking a blast. We're gonna be making a 3-course meal. We're gonna be making an appetizer, a course, like a main course, and then we're also gonna be making a dessert. So for appetizer, we're gonna be making Asun, which is basically like it's barbecued goat meat, or you can call it roasted goat meat, but it's, you know, it has some flavor to it, which I'm going to be showing you. And also for our main course, we're going to be doing what else? Jollof rice, of course, with fried turkey, you know, just relishing Thanksgiving moments. And for dessert, we're going to be making a super delicious chocolate moist cake that is dairy free. Hopefully I'm going to be adding Nutella, so maybe not totally dairy free, but egg free for sure. Yeah, so let's get right into it. And I'm going to be sharing, coming up personal with you guys, sharing my personal story, and we're going to be having an amazing time.
All right,
get right into it.
people,
Okay,
look at that. These are all our ingredients that we'll be using for our food today. First, we'll start with our goat meat. We're going to begin garnishing the goat meat with some onions. We're going to add some jerk seasoning in there. We're going to add some curry powder as well. We're going to add some nutmeg, and then we're going to add our bouillon powder. We're also going to add some suya spice, like you can see right there. And once we get all those together, we're going to mix and incorporate the ingredients into the goat meat so that, you know, the flavor can begin coming out. We do the exact same thing for our turkey, and we're going to set that in the fridge for about an hour or an hour 30 minutes to get the meat, the goat meat and the turkey marinated so that we can get more of that flavor coming out, okay? And now that we've had our goat meat sitting in the fridge for about an hour 30 minutes, we're going to put that into the pot. Look at that. And we're going to leave that on low heat for about 15 minutes to get all of the juice out. Look at that. Now that our goat meat has been in there for about 15 minutes, we're going to be ready to toss it into the oven for the next 30 to 35 minutes. While our meat is in the oven, we're going to begin our sauce for the goat meat, for the Asun. We're gonna get that pepper in. There is some habanero pepper, some red bell peppers, and some jalapeno as well. We're gonna add all of the spices that you saw me add in our meat, and then we're gonna mix all that together. We're gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes ish, and then once that gets incorporated together, feel free to add more oil if you need to. We're gonna be adding some onions to get that flavor coming. And right after that, after about a minute, we're going to be adding our vegetable to sit in there for about a minute or 90 seconds. And then we'll add our meat. This looks so beautiful, guys, and it tasted really great. Forgive my messy stove. All right, now we're getting into the jollof rice. We have some bell peppers for our sauce. We have some tomato and onions. We'll blend that together. Once we get that done, we'll get that on the stove, the blended mix on the stove, and get all of the moisture trapped in there out. And now we're going to add our tomato paste. We're going to add some oil. I like to use olive oil. All of the ingredients will be in the description box below. That's some curry powder, nutmeg, and some bouillon powder as well. And then we're going to be adding our jollof rice spice to bring that jollof rice flavor, okay? And we're going to save some sauce just to make sure that we have enough to garnish, you know, our rice at the end. Now we're going to be adding our rice into that mix, and we're going to be making sure to mix and incorporate properly. And once that is done, look at that color. We're going to add some water in there to get the rice to cook, enough to get the rice to cook, but not too much to make the rice soggy. We're going to cover that up and leave to boil for about 15 minutes. It's been boiling for 15 minutes. Look at that. We still need the rice to cook a little more, so we'll give it some time, get the moisture down there. And are you ready? Look at that. Our rice has been boiling for the past 5-7 minutes, and we are all ready for that beautiful jollof. All right.
so while we're waiting on the food to get all together and for us to begin tasting all the delicious yummies, I'm going to be sharing with you a personal story. I feel like personal stories most of the times are very relatable, so that's why I like to share my personal stories. Alright, so put down in the comment below if you would like me to share more personal stories, or if you want to share your personal story, put it down in the comment below and we can all learn from it, right? So as far back as I remember, being in like primary, which is like middle school, and like high school, I've always been like, you could tag me as one of those smart kids in class. I may not be like the first, second, but like if you counted 5 people in class, you should be able to count my name as one of the best in class. And also the thing is, in those moments, I wasn't really one to like sit down in front and like be like a nerd kind of person. I would just like sit at the back, but like once I understood like something, I just carried it along. And so I was one of those kids that I didn't have to read much to catch something, right? So that was my life. That's how I knew till, you know, like high school. So I remember when I was about going into college, my sister was already in college, and so she used to write me letters. Then there was no like email, so she used to send it through my mom, who used to go visit her like often. And so she wrote me this letter and she was like, hey, you know, school is tough, whatever, and that, you know, when I come, I should make sure that I at least get a 4 point out of 5 point, because the CGPA, like the highest cumulative grade point average, yeah, I think that's what it is 5 was, I don't know if that's still what it is at this time, but it was 5.0 at the time. And so she was saying that I should at least get 4.0 so that I can be in a stable place, and that would give me like a 2-1 and all of that. So when I got her message, I was like, nah, I'm not going for a 4.0. like I'm trying to get a first class, like 4.7, whatever it is, like the best is what I'm going for. Like I'm a smart student. Like, so anyways, I get into college my first year. You know, I thought it was going to be, you know, business as usual. I used to sit at the back, and you know, college is a bit different when it comes to sitting at the back and all of that. But anyway, so my first semester, you know, I was, you know, we did it, whatever. I saw my result, I didn't even get up to a 4 point. I had a 3.41. As I say this, I'm not even proud of it. But and I was like, oh wait, what happened? And then I kind of like, I'm not one to like feel sorry for myself immediately, so I did like an actual self-appraisal, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe I had distractions, whatever. So by my second semester, I joined study group, I joined like tutorial groups and all of that, so that I can, you know, get the score that or the grade that I was looking for. And you know, I remember like, you know, talking to friends, you know, getting along with friends, and like we'll be doing studies and I'll be answering all the questions. But when I get to the exam hall, even though like I would have like a nice sleep, I'm not like an overnight, I'm not one to like do overnight and then go for an exam. It doesn't work for me like that. So I knew myself back, right? So when I would go to class for an exam, I would be sitting down in the exam hall, and like it would be like somebody just like wiped my entire brain, and I would not remember one single thing that I read. And I would be there and I'll cry till the end of the exam like timeline, or the end of the exam when they say time's up, and I would have written like close to nothing. And so this continued like my first semester, my second semester in 100 level. And so by my second semester, I thought I was going to do better, but that I remember going to, you know, the board by my second semester, and I even had a carryover. A carryover is when you have an F in a course and you have to redo, or, you know, retake the course basically. And that was just very stressful, because then you would have to add additional units. And I remember just being very devastated. You know, I had this group of friends that I was working with at the time, and you know, all of them were like in their 4 points or like in first class. And so when they realized that, you know, I wasn't like in their, you know, like in their range of like grade, they started to like give me cold treatment. And so I remember like I would go to my friend's room and I'll be like, hey, do you guys want to go to the library? And everyone would just like give me cold treatment, and people would be like going to different places, like they'd be having hangouts, and I wouldn't even get invited. And so that really affected my self-esteem. And what then happened was that I ended up isolating myself in school. So everyone thought that I was quiet, like in university, like in college, but it wasn't that I was quiet. I was just, had lost my self-esteem, and I didn't think I had any value because I couldn't get a grade. So like in school then, not everyone knew your grade point, right? Because they posted your grade point by your matric number. And the people that would know your matric number were just like few people that were probably like your friends, or like, you know, people that their matric numbers were very, very close to yours, so they would know, you know, intuitively or somehow. And for me in school, I was so focused on like academic work that I was like, I don't want to go into a relationship, I don't want to do anything. Like my social life was zero because I wanted to make it, like I wanted to make a point to myself that I was smart. But like even in all of that, it was not good. Like my grade points were not moving up at all. I remember there was this guy that was asking me out at the time. It's very funny now that I remember, and I didn't even know that he knew my grade point or whatever. And so he was asking me out, and I was like, hey, you know what? I don't want to be in a relationship right now. I appreciate you, whatever, but I'm not interested. And then he says to me, he's like, oh, like, is it your result? Because I saw that you had a carryover. Like, is that why you don't want to go into a relationship? And I felt very bad because I was like, oh my God, like everyone knows my GP by now, And man. College was very terrible. It was a terrible time for me. Now that I think about it that, even though it wasn't a good time, God had beautiful things in store for me. So let me back up a little. Before that time, I've always had a very good relationship with Christ. Like my relationship with God was like, I had a very, by the grace of God, my parents brought us up in the way of God. So I had a very strong personal relationship with God. However, when it came to my academics, I felt like it wasn't something to worry God about. I felt like it was something that I could own on my own and that I was a smart person. So like I didn't need God in that area. And when I got into school and I started to fail and, my grades weren't looking good and I had all these spiritual attacks, that's when I knew that I had to go submit my academics to God and say, Lord, like, take over my academics and help me. And then at some point, you know what, I even stopped reading because I was like, there's no point, because like, why am I reading if I'm not gonna remember it, when I get to the exam hall. And I remember like in my 400 level, I remember one of the days I was sitting down in my room and I was just like, God, I hand this over to you. Like I hand over my academics to you. Like if I'm not going to do well, I'm not going to do well. Like I'm not going to struggle. I'm not going to like try to get this thing together again. Like you just do your own thing. Like I'm not even struggling here. And that semester was the first semester. I think I hit a 4.08 or something, and it was interesting to me that at the time where I was doing close to nothing, that's where God came and, shined his light on my academics and brought me to where I am today. And to think that now, there's sometimes where you are in certain places and now I think about it and I laugh because I'm like, how was I so bothered about something that would not matter like 10, 15 years down the line? I think about my life right now. I don't even remember when last somebody asked me what was your CGPA. And I'm talking to somebody right now, like there's something in your life that's bothering you so much. Like it's like this thing, like if you don't get it, the world is going to crash. But that's not it. Like God is going to turn that situation into glory for you. But one thing I think that God requires from us is us to be vulnerable. And I think that the story of Easter is a story of vulnerability. Like every time I read the story of Easter, honestly, I cry, I shed tears in my bathroom because I read my Bible mostly in my bathroom. You've heard me say that before. But I shed tears because, this was Jesus that knew how to do everything to save himself, but he chose to be vulnerable because of a greater cause. And so sometimes in our lives, we have to lay it all down and say, Lord, I'm no longer trying. I'm not trying to get pregnant. I'm not trying to have a baby. I'm not trying to get a man. I'm not trying to get a job. I lay it all at your feet. And if you cannot give me, let it never happen. And that's when you get to that point where you're like, Lord, I no longer know what to do. That's when God takes up the baton from you and he runs with it and goes and brings you your miracle. If God is going to be the one to win your battle, man cannot fight it. Right? It makes sense, right? If man is going to be the one to win that battle, God cannot fight. And if you're a child of God, God always wants to take the glory in your life. That means that he has to be the one to fight for you. He has to be the one to run things out for you. And you have to be in a state where, and vulnerability is, I think vulnerability means weakness in itself, in the word, but being able to keep yourself in a place of vulnerability is the greatest strength you can ever exert. I think that Jesus exerted the greatest strength, more than any strength that he had exerted in his lifetime, by being vulnerable on that cross, knowing that he could do everything to save himself, but he relied on God to bring a greater glory out of that situation. You know, when I came to the US, God is so, you know, amazing because, you know, when you're in grad school, you're thinking of different things. Like I've shared to you about my job story. I wasn't really thinking of my academics. I was just like, if I can get this so and so grade points, I'm out. Like, I'm not trying to be a first class student in grad school. Would that one help? But like at that point where I was just like, I'm not even trying. My first semester, all A's. God just wanted to show me that this thing I can give you, but don't think that your power can get you some things. God is the one that's the orchestrator of life, and He can get you whatever your heart desires. So I want to encourage you, whatever it is that's so hard for you right now, maybe it's so hard because you have not surrendered it to Jesus. Maybe it's so hard because you have not asked the Holy Spirit to take control. Maybe it's so difficult because you are still holding on, you haven't let go. I want to encourage you, this is the time to let go and let God. All right, in a minute we're also going to get our cake going, and it's going to be a amazing time. Leave me some comment in the description if this encouraged you. I hope that it did, and I pray that whatever you are going through right now that might just seem like the greatest thing in the world, that God will come through and step in for you and make things easier for you. All right, love you guys, and I will see you on the other side, okay, where we are chocolating.
All right,
Eating.
beautiful
All right, talk soon.
people. Here we go, chocolate cake. I'm adding some flour in there, adding some coconut sugar, adding also some cocoa powder unsweetened. And of course, I'm going to add some baking soda in there to get our cake rising. And also, I'm going to add some apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to mix all that together. I'm also going to add some salt in there as well. And I'm also going to have our coconut oil in there as well to get that cake light and moist. What you can see there is me adding our milk that was just heated up in the microwave. Also, I'm going to add some boiling hot water as well into that to get that vinegar activated. Okay, we're going to be mixing that. Look at the consistency, it is beautiful. And I'm going to be adding my secret ingredient, Nutella. You can see I'm almost out of it, but I can't do without adding that. You don't have to add that into yours. I just need chocolatey cake. Okay, and now I'm going to be greasing my pan that I'm going to be adding my cake batter into. That's going to be going into the oven, and it's going to be sitting in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes under a 350 degrees Fahrenheit heat. And I'm going to be getting that out, and we're going to see how beautiful that comes out. Okay. Um, yeah, look at that. Now we're going to be making our dressing. You guys know I like to improvise. So I'm using all ingredients that I have at home. Some chocolate chunks, unsweetened as well, some oat milk in there. And also I'm going to be adding Nutella. You know how it is. I'm almost out. Look at that. Look at what I'm doing. Now I melted that in the oven, in the microwave, I'm sorry. And now I'm just going to be basically pouring it over the cake. I think I should have sifted this mix because now I'm looking at it and I have like some sort of like lumps in there, which, you know, we can live without it. We can live with it, whatever. But, you know, next time I probably would do that. And yes, there we go. Look at that. This is, and I apologize for blocking my camera. I don't know what I was doing there. But now we're adding some strawberries in there for decor and that shiny little stuff right there. And voila.